Captain Jake Morrison stared at the reports on his desk. The numbers made his stomach hurt. 8 years of war between the Zephyrian Empire and the Kortak Federation. 8 long years of death and destruction. And for 3 of those years, humans had been trying to stop it. The cost was written in blood and credits across his screen. 12,000 human peacekeepers dead. Their bodies sent home in metal boxes while alien politicians argued about trade routes and mining rights. Entire human colonies had given up their food supplies to feed alien refugees. Human hospitals worked day and night to save alien wounded while their own people waited for treatment. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. The diplomatic ship Terra's voice hung in space between 2 massive fleets. Zephyrian ships gleamed silver in the starlight. Kortak vessels looked like floating fortresses of black metal. Both sides had enough firepower to destroy planets. But they kept talking instead of shooting because humans asked them to. Ambassador Lisa Carter had been talking to these aliens for 3 years. She was the best negotiator humanity had ever produced. 47 peace treaties carried her signature. Wars that could have killed billions ended because she found the right words. But these aliens were different. They seemed to enjoy the fighting too much to want real peace. In the conference room, Lisa sat across from War Prime Veltar of the Zephyrians and Battle Speaker Grixmoth of the Kortaks. She had sat in this same chair 847 times, the same arguments, the same demands, the same insults disguised as diplomacy. The Zephyrians attacked our mining station on Kepler 7, Grixmoth growled. His species looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. Battle scars covered his green scales. They killed 300 civilian workers. Veltar's 4 arms gestured wildly. His people resembled tall, thin birds with silver feathers. The Kortaks placed weapons on that station. It was a military target. We followed the rules of war. What rules? Lisa asked calmly. The ones we agreed on last month? Those rules said civilian workers cannot be harmed. Both aliens laughed. The sound made Jake's skin crawl even through the audio feed from the conference room. Humans and their rules. Veltar clicked his beak in amusement. You worry too much about the weak. War is natural. The strong survive. Yes, Grixmoth agreed. Your species thinks too much with your hearts. It makes you soft. Weak. This is why you always lose when you fight. Lisa kept her face calm, but Jake saw her hands tighten slightly. He had known her for 15 years. She was getting angry, but she hid it well. Too well, maybe. We are here to find peace, she said. Both of your governments asked for human help. We gave it freely. But peace requires both sides to want it. We want victory, Veltar said. The Kortaks took our worlds. We will take them back. The Zephyrians stole those worlds from us first, Grixmoth replied. We only reclaimed what was ours. Jake had heard this same argument hundreds of times. The truth was simple. Both sides wanted the same star systems because they were rich in rare metals. Neither side would share. Neither side would compromise. They just wanted humans, to make the other side give up. Dr. Amy Walsh worked at a computer nearby. She was an expert on alien psychology. Her job was to help Lisa understand how different species thought. But after 3 years, even Amy looked tired and frustrated. Captain, Amy said quietly into her communicator, I'm reading high stress levels from both delegates. They're enjoying this. The arguing, the drama, the attention. I think they like having humans beg them to stop fighting. Jake nodded. He had suspected the same thing. These 2 species were using the peace talks as entertainment. They got to feel important while humans did all the real work of cleaning up their mess. Admiral Tony Hughes called from Earth that morning. Jake could still hear the anger in the old man's voice. Jake, I'm tired of this. We're bleeding resources on these aliens while our own people suffer. Half the council back home wants to pull out completely. The other half? Jake had asked. They think abandoning the peace process makes us as bad as the warmongers. Classic human guilt. Jake understood the feeling. Humans seemed unable to watch, suffering without trying to help. It was their greatest strength and their biggest weakness. The conference room door chimed. A young human officer entered with urgent news. Jake could see him whispering to Lisa. Her face went pale, then very still. The kind of still that meant something terrible had happened. "What is it?" Veltar demanded. "We are in important discussions." Lisa looked at both aliens. When she spoke, her voice was different, colder. "Both of your fleets just attacked human medical convoys." The room went quiet. "Impossible," Grixmoth said. "We would not harm human civilians." "The data is clear," Lisa said. "Zephyrian fighters destroyed 3 hospital ships carrying supplies to refugee camps. Kortak destroyers hit 4 more. All ships were clearly marked with medical symbols. All were broadcasting emergency medical frequencies." "An accident," Veltar said quickly. "War is chaos. Mistakes happen." 847 human civilians are dead," Lisa said. "Doctors, nurses, medical technicians, food service workers. They volunteered to help alien refugees. Your people killed them." Both aliens looked uncomfortable now. But not sorry. Jake could see it in their body language. They were worried about losing human support, not sad about human deaths. "These things happen in war," Grixmoth said finally. "The humans knew the risks." "Yes," Veltar agreed. "Perhaps if your medical ships stayed away from military zones, they would be safer. The refugee camps are in military zones because your war destroyed everything else," Lisa said. Both aliens laughed again, the same cruel sound as before. "Humans," Veltar clicked. "So emotional about death. In war, some must die so others can win. This is natural law." "Your people die protecting others," Grixmoth added. "But what do you gain?" "Nothing. This proves humans are foolish." Lisa stood up slowly. Jake had never seen her move like that, like a predator that had been pretending to be prey. "You're right," she said quietly. "We are foolish. We thought you wanted peace. We thought you cared about your own people suffering. We thought you had honor." "We have honor," Veltar protested. "Zephyrian honor is—" "You have nothing," Lisa interrupted. "You are children playing with guns while adults die cleaning up your mess." The aliens stopped laughing. Lisa gathered her papers with calm, precise movements. "The United Terran Federation formally withdraws from all mediation efforts. You want to fight? Fight, but you will do it without us." She walked toward the door. Both aliens started talking at once, their voices rising in panic. "Wait," Grixmoth called. "You cannot leave. We need human help too." "Ambassador Carter," Veltar said urgently. "Let us discuss this reasonably. Perhaps we were too hasty in our words." Lisa stopped at the door and looked back. Jake had never seen her eyes so cold. "Discuss it with each other," she said. "You finally got what you wanted. A war with no rules and no one to stop you. Enjoy it." She left the room. Behind her, 847 voices fell silent forever. And for the first time in 3 years, the galaxy was about to learn what humans looked like when they stopped being patient. News traveled fast in the galaxy. Within 6 hours, every alien government knew that humans had walked away from the peace talks. Within 12 hours, panic began to set in. Admiral Tony Hughes stood in the command center on Earth, watching reports flood in from across human space. His weathered face showed no emotion, but inside he felt grim satisfaction. After decades of watching aliens treat humans like servants, it was time for a change. "Operation Homecoming is authorized," he announced to his staff. "Begin immediate withdrawal of all human personnel from non-human systems." Colonel Steve Parker had been waiting for this order for months. He activated communication channels that reached every human outpost, colony, and business in alien space. The message was simple and clear. All human citizens are to return to Terran Federation space immediately. This is not a request. Pack essential items only. Transport ships are already en route to your locations. Senator Kate Williams called from the Federation Council chambers. "Admiral, the politicians are screaming. Half of them want to reverse this decision." "Let them scream," Tony replied. Ask them how many more humans have to die before we stop begging aliens to be civilized. What the aliens did not understand was how much they needed humans. For 200 years, humans had quietly become the backbone of galactic civilization, not through conquest or demands, but through simple competence and willingness to help. Dr. Ben Collins ran the Galactic Infrastructure Coordination Center. His team of 12,000 humans maintained the systems that kept interstellar civilization running: hyperspace beacons that allowed faster-than-light travel, communication networks that connected thousands of worlds, power grids that supplied energy to entire star systems. "Sir," his assistant asked nervously, "what about the beacon network? If we shut it down, billions of aliens will be stranded." Ben looked at his screens. Green lights showed healthy systems across the galaxy. In 72 hours, most of those lights would turn red. "That's their problem now. Pack your things." Commander Rick Davis commanded a fleet of 300 transport ships. His job was to bring humans home from the farthest corners of the galaxy. He had 43 million people to evacuate. It was the largest rescue operation in human history. "All ships begin pickup operations," he ordered. "Fastest routes home. Don't wait for alien permission to enter their space. We're not asking anymore." The first signs of trouble appeared within hours. On the trade world of Nexus Prime, human-run shipping companies shut down overnight. Cargo that supplied food to 12 worlds sat unmoving in warehouses. Alien businesses that depended on human logistics networks found themselves unable to move their goods. Zara Kim had run a medical supply company for 15 years. Her factories produced medicines that kept alien populations healthy. Diseases that once killed millions were now prevented by her vaccines and treatments. She received desperate calls as her factories went dark. "Please," begged Counselor Thex of the Andromedan Union, "our children are dying without your medicines. We will pay any price." "The price was treating humans with respect," Zara replied. "You chose to pay a different cost instead." On the agricultural world of New Eden, human farmers had turned barren, alien planets into gardens. Their techniques fed billions of alien citizens across dozens of worlds. Now those farms stood empty as humans packed their equipment and left. The Cortac Federation was the first to feel real panic. Their war with the Zephyrians had destroyed most of their food production. They survived on grain shipped from human, agricultural worlds. When those shipments stopped, starvation began within days. Battle Speaker Grixmoth sent urgent messages to the Terran Federation. "We must speak with your leaders. This situation requires immediate resolution." The response came from Admiral Hughes personally. "You wanted war without human interference. You have it. Enjoy your victory." The Zephyrian Empire faced a different crisis. Their advanced technology depended on rare materials processed in human refineries. Without those materials, their weapons stopped working. Their ships could not be repaired. Their mighty fleet began falling apart. War Prime Veltar tried a different approach. He offered massive payments for human services. "Name your price, we will pay anything." Senator Williams responded to his offer. "Our price was simple. Don't murder human civilians. You could not afford even that small cost." By the third day, the hyperspace beacon network began failing. Human technicians had maintained these ancient devices for decades. Without constant care, the delicate system started breaking down. The first major route failure stranded 2 Galactic Council fleets between star systems. "This is impossible," declared Counselor Prime Zeth of the Galactic Council. "The beacons have worked for 1,000 years." "They worked because humans fixed them every day," replied Ambassador Frank Turner, humanity's final representative to the Council. "We repaired, upgraded, and maintained systems you forgot existed. The economic collapse came next. Interstellar trade depended on human-operated shipping routes. Human banks processed transactions between alien governments. Human insurance companies covered interstellar commerce. When humans left, the galactic economy seized up like a machine without oil. Smaller alien governments panicked first. The Centauri Republic had built their entire civilization around trade, managed by human companies. When those companies vanished, overnight, Their government had no way to feed their people or power their cities. "We need help," pleaded President Mora of the Centauri Republic. "Our people are dying." Major Julie Ross commanded the defense forces protecting human evacuation sites. She had watched aliens treat her people like servants for too long. "Your people should have thought about that before you decided humans were expendable." Some aliens tried to force humans to stay. The Andromedan Union sent warships to blockade human evacuation fleets. They demanded that human doctors and engineers return to their posts. Major Ross's response was swift and brutal. The Andromedan blockade fleet was disabled in 17 minutes. Not destroyed, but left floating helplessly in space with all weapons and engines offline. It was a demonstration of capability that shocked the galaxy. "How?" gasped Admiral Keith of the Andromedan fleet. "Human ships are not this powerful." "Human ships were never meant to be weapons," Major Ross replied over the communication channel. "We built them to help people, but we know how to build other things too." The revelation terrified alien governments. For 2 centuries, they had seen human military forces as weak peacekeepers. They never realized that humans chose to be gentle. The choice could be unmade. Meanwhile, the original war between the Zephyrians and Cortax spiraled out of control. Without human mediators, both sides abandoned all restraint. Planets burned. Billions died. The conflict that humans had tried to stop for 3 years became the bloodiest war in galactic history. Dr. Amy Walsh watched the news reports from her office on Earth. Alien refugees flooded into any system that would take them. Starvation spread across dozens of worlds. The galactic communication network failed, leaving entire civilizations isolated and afraid. "Was this the right choice?" asked her assistant. Amy thought about 847 human volunteers who died carrying medical supplies to alien refugees. She thought about 12,000 peacekeepers who gave their lives trying to stop alien wars. She thought about decades of human sacrifice that aliens treated as weakness. "Ask me in 30 days, she said. Ambassador Turner prepared for his final appearance before the Galactic Council. The great chamber that once held representatives from hundreds of worlds was now half empty. Many governments could no longer afford to send delegates. Others were too busy dealing with civil unrest and economic collapse. He carried with him humanity's final message to the galaxy: 30 days to prove they could survive without using humans as their foundation. 30 days to show they deserved. To share the stars with a species that had spent 2 centuries trying to help them become better than they were. The countdown had begun. And for the first time in galactic history, humans were not going to save everyone else from the consequences of their own choices. 2 weeks after the human withdrawal, galactic civilization was falling apart. What had started as economic problems was now a complete collapse. Star systems went dark as power grids failed. Millions starved as food distribution networks broke down. Communication between worlds became impossible as quantum relay stations shut down one by one. Dr. Ben Collins watched the destruction from his new office on Mars. Screens showed the galaxy burning in slow motion. Red warning lights marked failed systems across thousands of worlds. Each light represented billions of alien lives affected by humanity's absence. "The Vegan system just went offline," reported his assistant. "That's the 15th major hub this week." Ben nodded grimly. "They'll all be gone within the month. Those systems were already old when humans first found them. We've been holding everything together with repairs and upgrades for decades. The Cortac Federation was the first major government to completely collapse. Without food shipments from human agricultural worlds, their people began starving. Without human manufactured medicines, diseases spread unchecked through their population centers. Battle Speaker Grixmoth tried to maintain order, but his own military was deserting as soldiers returned home to help their families. "Send envoys to the humans," Grixmoth ordered desperately. "Offer them anything they want: territory, resources, complete surrender if necessary." His aide looked nervous. "Sir, they're not responding to any communication attempts. It's like they've vanished." The Zephyrian Empire lasted longer, but not by much. Their advanced technology kept basic systems running for a while. But without human processed materials for repairs, their equipment began breaking down. War Prime Veltar watched his mighty fleet become a collection of floating scrap metal. "This is impossible," he raged. "How can one species be so essential to galactic civilization? We were the dominant power before humans arrived." His science advisor, an elderly Zephyrian named Kextar, spoke carefully. "My lord, we were dominant in our local region. Humans connected us to the greater galaxy. They built the infrastructure that made our empire possible." Veltar struck the advisor with one of his 4 arms. "Find a way to make our ships work without human materials. Find it now." But there was no way. Human technology wasn't just superior. It was integrated into everything. Alien civilizations had become dependent on systems they didn't understand and couldn't replicate. Meanwhile, smaller governments tried different approaches to the crisis. The Centauri Republic attempted to kidnap human families who had lived in their space for generations. They thought holding hostages would force humanity to restore services. Major Julie Ross received the emergency call on her secure channel. "Centauri forces have taken the Morrison family and 67 other human civilians. They're demanding restoration of trade networks in exchange for their release." Julie felt ice form in her chest. These aliens still didn't understand who they were dealing with. "Send the rescue teams, full authorization." Captain Laura Evans commanded the Human Special Forces unit that responded to the hostage situation. Her ships appeared in Centauri space without warning. They were not the same peaceful vessels that had carried diplomats and aid workers for decades. These ships were built for war. The Centauri Defense Fleet moved to intercept them. 37 heavy cruisers against 5 human ships. The aliens expected an easy victory, or at least a long battle that would give them negotiating time. The battle lasted 4 minutes and 17 seconds. When the shooting stopped, the entire Centauri fleet was disabled. Not destroyed, but completely helpless. Every weapon system offline. Every engine dead. Every communication array jammed. The ships floated in space like metal coffins. "How?" gasped Admiral Crix of the Centauri forces. "Our intelligence said human ships were lightly armed civilian vessels." Captain Evans opened a communication channel. "Your intelligence was wrong. We don't arm civilian ships because we don't need to. When we build ships for war, they serve a different purpose." The human forces boarded the Centauri ships with surgical precision. They rescued every human hostage without a single casualty. The Centauri soldiers who tried to resist were neutralized so quickly they barely understood what happened. "This is impossible," one Centauri officer said as human soldiers restrained him. "Humans are weak, peaceful. You avoid violence." The human soldier, a young woman named Sergeant Kim Baker, looked at him with cold eyes. "We avoid unnecessary violence." This was necessary. News of the Centauri defeat spread across the galaxy in hours. Suddenly, every alien government understood that they had been making a terrible mistake for 2 centuries. Human peacekeepers weren't weak soldiers. They were strong soldiers choosing not to fight. Ambassador Frank Turner stood before what remained of the Galactic Council. The great chamber that once housed hundreds of delegates now held barely 50. Most governments could no longer afford representation. Others were too busy fighting civil wars or dealing with infrastructure collapse. "Honored delegates," Frank began, his voice carrying across the nearly empty hall. "Humanity gave you an ultimatum. 30 days to prove you could coexist without using us as your foundation. Today marks day 18. Counselor Prime Zeth of the Rigel Confederation spoke desperately. "Ambassador Turner, surely we can negotiate new terms. Perhaps if certain reparations were paid for past grievances." "Reparations won't bring back 847 dead civilians," Frank replied. "Your people laughed when we tried to help alien refugees. You called us weak for caring about innocent lives." Another delegate, Vizier Nal of the Sirius Compact, tried a different approach. "The actions of the Zephyrians and Cortex don't represent all of us. Many species have always valued human friendship." Frank pulled out a data pad and read from it. Last year, the Sirius Compact voted to reduce funding for human refugee assistance programs. You said the money would be better spent on military expansion. Your exact words were that humans were too soft-hearted about alien suffering. Vizier Nal's face flushed with embarrassment. That was taken out of context. The context was a vote to let 3 million Andromedan refugees starve rather than increase the aid budget by 2%. The chamber fell silent. Every delegate remembered similar votes. Similar decisions to put their own interests ahead of humanitarian efforts. General Mike Thompson took control of human space defense as the 30-day deadline approached. He watched alien fleets gathering at the borders of human territory. Some came as beggars hoping to negotiate for aid. Others came as invaders, planning to take by force what they could no longer receive as gifts. "Sir," reported his aide, "we're detecting massive fleet movements. The Andromedan Union is assembling every ship they have. Looks like they're planning to invade the Terran sector." Mike studied the tactical displays. The Andromedan force was impressive by galactic standards. 3,000 ships of various classes, enough firepower to destroy planets. In the old days, such a fleet would have been unstoppable. "Let them come," Mike said calmly. "It's time the galaxy learned what human military doctrine actually looks like when we stop holding back." The Andromedan fleet arrived at the edge of human space 12 days before the deadline. Admiral Vorth commanded the largest invasion force assembled in galactic history. He expected resistance, but he also expected victory. Humans had always seemed weak when faced with superior numbers. "Attention human forces," Admiral Vorth broadcast on all frequencies. "You will restore all services to their previous levels immediately. You will also surrender the war criminals responsible for attacking Centauri forces. Comply within 1 hour, or we will begin bombardment of human colonies." The response came from General Thompson himself. "Admiral Vorth, you have 10 minutes. To withdraw your fleet from human space, this is your only warning." Admiral Vorth laughed. 10 minutes? Human, I have 3,000 ships. You have perhaps 200 defending this sector. Simple mathematics should tell you the outcome of this confrontation. "Mathematics is helpful," General Thompson agreed. "But you're using the wrong equation. What happened next changed galactic warfare forever. The human defense fleet didn't meet the Andromedan invasion force in traditional battle. Instead, they demonstrated technologies that no alien government had suspected existed. The 3,000-ship Andromedan fleet was disabled in 7 minutes and 31 seconds. Not destroyed, disabled. Every ship left floating helplessly in space with their crews unharmed but their vessels completely powerless. "Impossible," Admiral Vorth whispered as his flagship lost all power. "How? How do you have such weapons, General?" Thompson's voice came over the emergency communication channel that somehow still worked, despite everything else being offline. "We've had these weapons for 50 years. We just never needed to use them before. You see, Admiral, the secret to human military doctrine is very simple. We prepare for wars we hope never to fight." The demonstration sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Every remaining government realized that humans could have ended any conflict instantly. The Zephyrian-Kortak War could have been stopped in minutes. Every territorial dispute, every resource, conflict, every stupid alien war of the past 2 centuries could have been ended with a single human fleet. But humans had chosen diplomacy instead. They had chosen to lose 12,000 peacekeepers rather than simply destroy the armies that killed them. They had chosen to spend decades mediating conflicts they could have ended by force. The galaxy finally understood the difference between weakness and restraint. And with 12 days left in the ultimatum, they began to realize that they were running out of time to prove they deserved a second chance. 5 days remained until humanity's deadline expired. The galaxy held its breath as governments collapsed and civilizations crumbled. What had started as an economic crisis had become the end of galactic civilization, as everyone knew it. General, Mike Thompson stood on the observation deck of the space station orbiting Earth. Through the massive windows, he could see the home planet of humanity spinning peacefully below. It looked so calm and quiet compared to the chaos consuming the rest of the galaxy. "Sir," his aide reported, "the Galactic Council has voted to dissolve itself. They can't maintain order anymore. Too many member governments have fallen." Mike nodded. It was expected. When the foundation cracked, everything built on top of it came tumbling down. What about the individual approaches? 17 species have sent formal requests for separate negotiations. They're abandoning the old alliance structures and trying to deal with us directly. Dr. Sarah Kim was leading the establishment of new human research colonies in previously unexplored space. Her job was to make sure humanity could thrive, even if the rest of the galaxy destroyed itself. She received daily reports from the border regions where desperate aliens gathered. The refugee camps are getting larger, she told General Thompson during their morning briefing. We're seeing species that never left their home systems before. The infrastructure collapse is forcing them to become nomads. Are they asking for help? Mike asked. Some are. Others are demanding it. A few are threatening to take it by force. Captain Laura Evans commanded the border patrol fleets that protected human space. Her ships encountered desperate aliens every day. Some came as beggars. Others came as would-be conquerors. All of them learned the same lesson about humanity's new boundaries. 3 days before the deadline, the largest remaining alliance of alien governments made their final attempt. The coalition of surviving worlds assembled every functional warship they could find, nearly 5,000 vessels from 47 different species. Their plan was simple: invade human space and force the restoration of galactic services. Admiral Zrex of the Vegan High Command led the coalition fleet. He had studied the defeat of the Andromedan invasion force and thought he understood humanity's capabilities. His strategy was to overwhelm human defenses with sheer numbers and spread out attacks. Humans defeated 3,000 ships, he explained to his fellow commanders. But we have 5,000, and we will attack multiple targets simultaneously. They cannot be everywhere at once. The coalition fleet split into 7 groups and approached human space from different directions. Each group targeted a different human system. The plan was to force humans to divide their forces and create opportunities for breakthrough attacks. Captain Laura Evans received the tactical reports at her command post. 7 attack groups, ranging from 400 to 900 ships each. They're trying to stretch our response capabilities. General Thompson studied the display showing enemy fleet positions. Clever strategy. It might have worked against the old galactic powers, but they still don't understand who they're fighting. The coalition attacks began simultaneously across 7 star systems. Admiral Zrex personally led the assault on the Proxima Centauri system, expecting to overwhelm the small human garrison there. What he found instead was a single human ship waiting for his 900-vessel fleet. "This is Admiral Zrex of the Coalition of Surviving Worlds," he broadcast. "Surrender immediately or face the consequences of your defiance." The response came from Commander Beth Wilson aboard the human vessel. "Admiral, you have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system. After that, I will consider your presence an act of war." Admiral Zrex laughed. "1 ship against 900? Human arrogance knows no bounds." "Not arrogance," Commander Wilson replied calmly. "Just mathematics." The battle that followed redefined galactic warfare. Commander Wilson's single ship disabled the entire coalition fleet in 12 minutes. Not destroyed, disabled. 900 vessels left floating helplessly in space with their crews unharmed but their ships completely powerless. The same scene played out in all 7 targeted systems. 7 human ships defeated 5,000 alien vessels without firing a single shot that killed anyone. The aliens found their ships simply stopped working, as if some invisible force had reached out and turned off every system simultaneously. "How is this possible?" Admiral Zrex asked over the emergency channel. "What kind of weapons do you have?" "The kind we never wanted to use," Commander Wilson answered. "The kind we built hoping we would never need them. The kind that make war obsolete when used by people who understand their purpose." News of the coalition's total defeat spread across the galaxy in hours. The message was clear. Military force would not work against humans. No amount of ships, no clever tactics, no desperate bravery could overcome humanity's technological superiority. But more importantly, the aliens finally understood that humans had possessed this power all along. Every human peacekeeper who died could have been saved by deploying these weapons. Every alien war could have been ended instantly. Every territorial dispute could have been resolved by demonstrating overwhelming force. Instead, humans had chosen to lose thousands of their own people rather than use their full capabilities. They had chosen to spend decades negotiating with species they could have simply conquered. They had chosen to be servants when they could have been masters. Ambassador Frank Turner prepared humanity's final message to the galaxy. With one day remaining until the deadline, he stood in the empty Galactic Council chambers. Most delegates had fled back to their dying homeworlds. Only a handful remained to hear humanity's decision. Representatives of the surviving governments, Frank began. 30 days ago, we gave you a simple challenge. Prove that you could coexist without using humans as your foundation. Show us that you deserve to share the galaxy with a species that spent 2 centuries trying to help you become better than you were. He paused, looking at the nearly empty chamber. You failed. Counselor Prime Zeth of the few remaining delegates spoke desperately. Ambassador, surely there must be room for negotiation. Many of us have learned from these events. We understand now the value of human friendship. Do you? Frank asked. Or do you understand the consequences of losing human services? Vizier Nal tried another approach. The deaths of human civilians were tragic, but many species had nothing to do with those attacks. Why should we suffer for the crimes of others? Frank activated a holographic display showing voting records from the past decade. This shows every vote in the Galactic Council regarding human humanitarian efforts. Red marks indicate votes to reduce funding or support for human-led peace initiatives. Blue marks indicate votes to increase such support. The display was almost entirely red. Even species that claimed to value human friendship had repeatedly voted against supporting human peacekeeping efforts. You all participated in creating the conditions that led to those deaths, Frank continued. You treated human sacrifice as expected rather than honored. You took our help for granted and called us weak for giving it. With that, Frank delivered humanity's final decision. The galaxy would be divided into sectors. Humans would control roughly 1/3 of known space, including the most technologically advanced and resource-rich systems. Any species that wanted to enter human space would need explicit invitation and would be held to strict standards of behavior. The remaining 2/3 of the galaxy would be left to alien governments to manage as they saw fit. No human aid, no human intervention, no human peacekeeping. If aliens wanted to fight wars, they could fight them without human mediation. If they wanted to build civilizations, they would have to do it without human support. Some species would be offered partnership with humanity, but only after demonstrating years of peaceful behavior and genuine cooperation with other species. The criteria were strict and the application process would be long. 5 years later, Ambassador Lisa Carter sat in her garden on Earth, reading reports from across the galaxy. The division had created a new equilibrium. Some alien species had learned to cooperate without human oversight and were thriving. Others had collapsed completely, unable to adapt to self-reliance. A few had earned genuine partnership with humanity through demonstrated peaceful coexistence. These species were slowly being integrated into human space as equals, not dependents. The former war between the Zephyrians and Cortax had ended not through victory or defeat, but through mutual exhaustion. Both empires had collapsed, leaving their people scattered across refugee camps. Some of these refugees had approached human space seeking asylum. The application process would take years. Dr. Amy Walsh brought Lisa her morning reports. The Centauri Republic is requesting humanitarian aid. Famine has killed 3 million of their people in the past year. Lisa sipped her tea and considered the request. What have they done to address the causes of the famine? Nothing meaningful. They're still trying to maintain their old governmental structure and trade policies. They want us to solve their problems without changing their behavior. Then the answer is no, Lisa said calmly. They can apply for refugee status like everyone else, but we won't prop up failed systems anymore. A group of young alien diplomats had requested to study human negotiation techniques. Lisa had agreed to teach them, but with one crucial understanding: Humans would teach aliens how to make peace with each other, but would never again make peace for them. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about taking essential services for granted. Humanity had learned an equally important lesson about the difference between helping and enabling. Both sides were slowly building something better from the ruins of what came before. It would take generations, but for the first time in centuries, the galaxy was growing up. And somewhere in human space, the children and grandchildren of those 847 dead civilians grew up in a universe where their sacrifice had finally taught the galaxy the true value of peace.